Hey guys, and welcome to my next book discussion video. I wanted to change these up a little bit, make them a little bit more fluid. Truth be told, I don't really care much for trying to be some sort of internet influencer. I just want to talk about books, and what better place to do that than, outside by fire. So, this next book discussion video is about this book called Futility, which is known for predicting the sinking of the Titanic. So this book, Futility, was written in 1898 by Morgan Robertson. This is like 14 years before the Titanic actually sank. And I found out about it through when I bought Robert Serling's There's Something Alive on the Titanic. And in the back he talks about this book and how it accurately predicted the sinking of the Titanic. And I had to check it out from that point forward. So to Titanic buffs, this isn't anything new. There's a lot of stuff about this book on the internet already. But to me, it was brand new, and it was extremely fascinating, not only because it was a good short story or a novella, but also because I love anything that deals with, literary tie-ins to stuff or somehow predicting the future of all things. I thought that was very cool. This is something that happens from time to time, like the episode of The Lone Gunman, which is a spin-off of the X-Files, where they accurately predicted the crashing of the plane into the Twin Towers. So this type of phenomenon raises a few questions, and the biggest one is always, what is the cause for the author's accuracy? Like, how did they get it so right? And are there forces at work here that defy our understanding, or is this just a mere coincidence? So to gain insight into this, we can analyze Futility just a little bit closer. So the story itself is about this disgraced sailor named Roland, who falls on hard times after the love of his life leaves him, and he loses his rank. He's serving aboard this Titan ship. It's a passenger ship from England, and it's looking to break all these speed records. In its efforts, it accidentally sinks a smaller ship. The captain tries to silence Roland and pays off the rest of the crew for their silence, but Roland, despite being very low in the totem pole here, can't be bought. Later, the ship sinks after hitting an iceberg, and Roland becomes somewhat of an unlikely hero, rescuing the daughter of the love of his life, whose affection is in still many ways trying to win. And the second half of the story is largely dedicated to Roland sticking it to the captain in court, and a legal drama surrounding the payout of the ship, and so on. So, though the sinking of the ship is a pivotal moment in the story, if you decide to check this one out, just remember the author was not writing the story with the intent of predicting the future. But still, there are some details that are striking and a bit spooky throughout. So, how close was he? So, the name of the ship, the Titan, versus the Titanic, that one's obvious. And like I said, this book was being written before the Titanic had even begun construction. The author of Futility describes the ship as being unsinkable and it's indestructible, and there's all these other similarities to the actual real-life Titanic. The biggest and most obvious one, though, is that the ship hits a iceberg, and the ship doesn't have enough lifeboats for all the passengers. Further reading indicates that Robertson was, pretty close to the size and the speed of the ship even, and even their voyages across the sea were pretty similar. The question is, though, how did Robertson get it so right? The truth is, the author's background is one major indicator, and when asked this very question, he replied, "I know what I am writing about, that's all." The actual author was the son of a ship captain, and he spent years on ships as well, and unfortunately he died in 1915, just a few short years after the sinking of the Titanic. So there's not a whole lot of first-hand account from the author himself on this ordeal. But I did find something that doesn't get mentioned in a lot of the other research that you're going to find in terms of how the author felt about this particular prediction of his. He provided a more metaphysical response in a letter to Ella Wheeler Wilcox, who is a famous poet known for her spiritual and occultist beliefs. In a letter to her, he is quoted as saying, "As to the motive of my story, I merely tried to write a good story with no idea of being a prophet. But, as in other stories of mine, and in the work of other and better writers, coming discoveries and events have been anticipated. I do not doubt that it is because of all the creative workers get into a hypnoid, telepathic, and precipitant condition, in which, while apparently awake, they are half asleep, and tap not only into the better informed minds of others, but the subliminal realm of the unknown facts. Some, as you know, believe that in this realm there is no such thing as time. And the fact that a long dream can occur in an instant of time gives to it and partly explains prophecy. Alright, so where do I stand on this? I've explored some of these metaphysical concepts before and described myself as someone who wants to believe. If you've watched any of my other UFO stuff, I want to believe in the supernatural, and I love to think about these things. But in Robertson's reply to Ella Wilcox, he touches upon a concept of this collective subconscious, a concept that's very closely associated with Carl Jung, whose theory of collective unconscious started to take shape in The Psychology of the Unconscious, which was published in 1912. Although he didn't coin that term until 1916, after Robertson's death. It's important to consider that some of this occult thinking, like those presented by Jung and Ella Wilcox and Robertson himself here, suggest to me that there's some basis for what Robertson was trying to say. Perhaps there's something more innate, coded in our DNA, that we share with not just ourselves, but our ancestors and each other as well. It's a pseudo-scientific belief on my part, but it's certainly a fascinating possibility that maybe the electrical impulses that drive our thoughts are not bound to the same physical limitations as our body. Maybe there are signals like radio waves that we pick up on from each other. Maybe some of those signals even come from beyond our place and time. I don't know. But inversely, maybe it is a coincidence, and we may have never noticed if we weren't hardwired for pattern recognition. Authors especially, the good ones anyway, are keen observers of the human experience and the nature of our reality. Perhaps it's inevitable that they will unknowingly hit the nail on the head, so to speak. And let's not forget all the books written by people who just absolutely miss, right? Are we then to theorize that they are tapped into an alternate consciousness? When thought about this way, it seems to support the thought that if you give 100 monkeys a typewriter, they will eventually write Shakespeare. So maybe there's no escaping. Personally, I find myself leaning towards life not being as random or as coincidental as it seems. With that being said, I love these types of situations where a book opens your eyes on another level, and reading can be an incredibly fascinating journey if you let your mind wander. Thanks for watching, and be sure to like and subscribe, and if you wish to join me on my own reading and writing journey, please do so. More importantly, I hope you join the discussion, because that's all this is really about. It's just creating a dialogue over my favorite thing, which is reading books.